Good evening, and welcome to Direct Impact Broadcasting, the station of growth and transformation. Affiliate of Creative Broadcasting presents Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson, with your host, Tawana Wilson, as she welcomes her guest to the studio.
Welcome to Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson. I am your host, Tawana Wilson. A little bit about myself. I am your award-winning leadership maven, medical laboratory sciences by background, best-selling author, owner and chief leadership coach at Trendy Elite Coaching and Consulting Services, executive director with the John Maxwell team, Maxwell Dish Certified Consultant, Send Out Cards referral partner, and co-owner of Direct Impact Broadcasting radio station. Before we bring on my special guest, I want to highlight our May fundraising initiative in conjunction with the Alzheimer's Association's Longest Day campaign for those affected by Alzheimer's disease or dementia. We have a goal this month to raise $500 in honor of my grandmother, Juanita Hardy, by the end of the month. So this year will mark 1 year since she passed of dementia. So donations can be made at bit.ly/TE Longest Day. I am also excited to announce the Trendy Elite 8-week Empowerment Tribe program launching very soon. Check out my website, www.coachtwilson.com, and social media channels for more information about this program. I would like to say thank you to my media mentors, Miss Ashley Luttrell and Miss Kimberly McLemore of Talk Radio TV Network, LLP. Today's special guest is my friend and fellow Kentucky State University alum, Mr. Nason Buchanan, also known as Tyree. So Tyree was raised in Glen Park community in Gary, Indiana. Nason's purpose and goal has long centered on empowering youth and their families, and he has since become a dedicated and influential man of service in Los Angeles. Since early 2001, Buchanan has worked with the Los Angeles Mayor's Office of Gang Reduction and Youth Development, or GRYD. The GRYD program is a comprehensive gang reduction program and aims to effectively reduce gang crime and violence in specific geographic areas, or GRYD zones, through the application of evidence-based gang prevention, intervention, and reentry strategies. Beginning as a regional manager, he covered multiple GRYD zones in Los Angeles South Bureau while collaborating with a range of stakeholders, including intervention agencies, LAPD divisions, community organizations, community members, schools, faith-based institutions, and juvenile justice agencies. Since Mayor Eric Garcetti took office in 2013, Buchanan has continued to lead within the GRYD office, facilitating various initiatives for proactive peacekeeping, including the city's gun buyback program, President Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative, and prevention strategy within the South Los Angeles GRYD zones, while also increasing organizations, partnerships, and alliances citywide. He also led the Mayor's Office GRYD Domestic Violence and Gang Nexus initiative across the city and continues to work with other community stakeholders to shape important education awareness campaigns, trainings, and crucial organizational collaborations. Buchanan has also spearheaded, developed, and executed multiple programs that have significantly contributed to the success of the GRYD office as well as the city as a whole. He launched expungement and gang injunction workshops as well as a Mother's Forum and Job Readiness course, which were attended by South LA community members and helped many individuals to become productive and significant contributors for their children and families. In collaboration with LAPD, Buchanan implemented a use of force training for community leaders and clergy to educate them on a portion of police policy that has a large impact on the way issues are perceived by the public. Further collaboration with LAPD has yielded a South LA cookout for the community, a Divine Nine, and LAPD committee, as well as a gang training and gang injunction training for the GRYD staff. In order to maximize intervention's role and coverage in South Los Angeles, Buchanan helped institute and facilitate the South LA Strategy Team and Gang Ambassador Program. Additional positive relationships were built that led to increased safety in South Los Angeles and a decrease in crime. In addition to leading numerous programs and initiatives throughout the city, Buchanan has also been invited to a variety of speaking engagements, community forums, and conferences, locally, nationally, and internationally. He has had the honor of providing his knowledge and support alongside individuals from the City Attorney's Office, LAPD, California Assembly, and State Senate, U.S. representatives, and other federal entities to engage and empower communities to stay active in areas such as gun violence, boys and men of color, reducing recidivism, and gang prevention and intervention. Outside of Los Angeles, Buchanan spoke at the Community Safety Symposium, where he offered his insight and expertise about implementing a successful gang intervention program in notorious South Los Angeles. He presented and contributed to the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative's work group of preventing crime in Kingston, Jamaica, where he not only shared his insight into successful prevention programming for at-risk youth, but began to forge international partnerships to expand his reach. Because of his success and expertise in Jamaica, Buchanan was invited to participate in the Fight for Peace, UNESCO International Conference in Rio de Janeiro. Here he continued to share successes from GRYD intervention programming and also provided additional expertise on the effectiveness of sports and youth-focused violence prevention programs in urban communities affected by high levels of crime and violence. He continued to build partnerships in Brazil and looked forward to sharing his expertise and successes with other communities and countries in order to enrich and improve lives worldwide. Buchanan's accomplishments in leadership through the Los Angeles Mayor's Office empower him to further develop and hone his skills and expertise so that his reach can continue to expand. In addition to his work, he is the founder of DMTL, nonprofit organization. The initials bear the names of immediate family members that he lost to a violent crime in 2002. He is also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated and serves on the board of directors for Brother to Brother Mentorship Organization and Sunburst Youth Academy Foundation. In 2017, Buchanan completed the Justice Policy Network Criminal Justice Reform Fellowship. This experience, combined with his other activism and leadership, has landed him the opportunity to connect and build alliances with future leaders citywide, striving to improve the criminal justice system. Buchanan transitioned to the Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity, Office of Reentry in 2018 to focus his efforts to serve justice, involved individuals transitioning back into our communities. This evening we have Mr. Nason Buchanan. So, Mr. Nason, how are you doing this evening?
Yes. What's up? What's up, K-State? Yeah. What's up? Yo, I got to say this. You got to excuse me a little. I'm kind of under the weather. It's been cold out here in Cali. It's like in the 60s, and I'm catching a cold a little bit, so you got to excuse me a little bit. But I want to thank you for having me on your show. I feel blessed for that, and I want to congratulate you on having a successful podcast.
Thank you so much for being here. I hope you feel better. 60-degree weather sounds awesome here in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, you got a great show. I listened to, you had Kobe on there, you had Eddie Melton on there. I went to school with them gentlemen, and I'm a fan as well.
Awesome, awesome. I am so happy to hear that. So that the listeners get to know a little bit more about you, tell the listeners about your leadership journey and how did you get to where you are today?
I go way back. I think I always been, I think not too long ago, I realized I'm an introvert, right? Growing up, I went from shy to quiet to reserved to laid back, but always kind of preserved. And so just growing up, I had the opportunity to grow up with two fathers in my life. And, I can recall a story my biological father told me when I was young. And he said, always be a leader. Don't be a follower. He said, he grew up on the south side of Chicago. I grew up in Gary, Indiana. He told me, he said, when he was younger, he said that one of his buddies came and got him and said, hey, come over here. Let's go break in somebody's house real quick. He said, I know that's interesting. So they went to this house, and my father's friend told him, hey, you go in first. And my father said, no, you go in first. And so the guy proceeded to go in. Once he got in, somebody shot his head off with a sawed-off shotgun. And so
wow.
The moral of that story my father tell me, never be a follower. So, he was raw and uncut like that, And so there's hearing raw and uncut stories like that when I was younger. My my step pops would sit us down and Gary and would talk to us about just trying to be a leader, And so my thing was sports. Sports kind of got me into realizing that I was a leader, where I would be like, if you go back to like Little League baseball, Pop Warner football, Biddy basketball, all of this I did in Glen Park, in the Glen Park area, and I would become captains on the team. And so I realized there's different types of leadership, and I was more so my style was the leading by example, and wasn't really verbal like that. And so once I would become the captain on these teams, I'm going to say, okay, I think I got something. I think I'm a little different, And once I got to junior high school, my football coach, Mr. Ola, would push me and my brother Larry. And I remember one time, Mr. Ola, he was my art teacher too. He would make me speak in front of all these classes. And I said to him one day, I said, man, Mr. Ola, why you always make me speak in front of people? That ain't cool, And he was like, son, you're a leader. And I see it in you, but you don't see it in you. And that kind of made me think my little teenage brain for about 2 minutes, and then I was on thinking of something else. But it was like individuals like him, my pops, Larry Peaches, other pops, Leroy Bell. But then just I think in the community, right? So in our communities, when people see somebody has something special in them, we kind of wrap around them and try to prevail their skill, or try to make sure that this person is staying safe. And so, like, I had a godfather, Mr. Bowden. He would like play with all the kids in the community, basketball and different things. And Mr. Bowden would pull me to the side sometimes and say, you got the ability to lead everybody, And so there's dropping them nuggets in my head, even though I really wasn't trying to hear it, was kind of settling in on me. My older brother Marcel would constantly try to make me tough and kind of constantly want me to be better than what I was. And so, it's like as I progressed, it was sink in more and more. As I was in high school, I was the captain of the teams. I was prom king, blah, blah, blah. But I never wanted to accept that it was me, right? And so when I got to K-State, when I got to K-State, I tried to lay low. So that was just my whole deal, to lay low. That's how I grew up. It's a lay low mentality. And so, but once I got involved with SGA and different ambassador programs, and then once I became a member, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, became the vice president, it was like, I still knew I had it, but I didn't want to accept it, right? And the leadership was always there. I was always able to stand out. I was always able to get people to listen to me, but I didn't really want to accept it all the way. And once I really became a professional in the world, I would be places and I would just listen to folks. And I'm the type where when I do speak, I want it to mean something. And so I noticed when I spoke, people really listened. And I'm like, man, and I realized it was a God-given ability, you know, and I'm like, now am I going to use these powers for good or will I use these powers for evil? And so I chose to use them for good. And so, but overall, my leadership skills have been developing ever since I was young. And it took me until once I graduated from college to really accept those skills and to challenge myself to take them to another level and to continue to let them grow. And so that was kind of like the storyline of my leadership development. And to this point now, where I'm at, I'm still challenging myself, you know?
Right. I love that because it is, you know, what our family members tell us is those nuggets of wisdom, those things that we really hold on to, you know, be a leader, not a follower. I mean, how many times do we have, you know, parents or grandparents that say those nuggets? You know, my mom would always say, you know, use your head for more than a hat rack. I'm like, okay, you know, or, you know, so some of those things. So that's awesome, you know, that you were able to get those. You know, I say it, you know, talk less, listen more. So that being quiet, it sounds like, you know, that really helped you, you know, really being able to lead by example.
Yeah, because I'm like the old cat now. I got nephews. I got young cats I mentor, or young women that's in the community that I'm like the motivator. I'm like, you're going to get something positive. You're going to get I have a dream speech from me, you know, at one point in our conversation. And I catch myself, I'm constantly trying to drop that, but I tell them, I say, you know, you got to be willing to accept it. I can't want it more than you want it.
Right.
If not, let's talk about something else. I'll support you regardless of who you are. But if you're not ready for challenging yourself and me holding you accountable, let's talk about something else. Let's not even put that on you because I'm going to be on you if you want to. If you're trying to get to the top. If you're trying to get to the top, I'm going to help you get to the top. But if you BSing, let's just talk about sports or something else and not even play with it.
Right. That makes sense. So you've done a lot of great work with the Los Angeles Mayor's Office of Gang Reduction and Youth Development over the years before transitioning to your current role in economic opportunity. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of this work and the outcomes that it's had on the community? Because it sounds like you all have done a lot of great things.
You know what's amazing? I never thought that my surroundings growing up would play a part in me advocating for communities across the nation, let alone possibly the world. What I mean by that is, in Gary, like growing up, I grew up during the crack era, and it was like everybody I knew was, I ain't gonna say everybody I knew, but a lot of people was gang banging. You know, people where they had to the left or to the right. Or people was in the dope game, and it was just an era that we were surviving. We really didn't. I guess that's all we knew, and so the gang culture was just a part of growing up. From what I saw, the gang culture in L.A. People think just because movies like Colors or Menace and all of that, Menace to Society, you know, different movies. Boys in the Hood, you haven't seen movies like that, that the gang culture has kind of died down. But if you look at the tragic loss of Nipsey Hussle, and people got kind of, not an introduction, but people who may not be around this area see that life is still, you know, still going strong. And so the gang life in L.A. is still breathing. It's still it exists. And unless you really in the communities, you won't even know that, because prior to me doing this work when I was in L.A., I never heard about everything that was going on until I got into this work. And so that gang culture across the nation is still prevalent. And so with the work that was being done, once I got into the work and was placed in South L.A., which is really known as South Central, it was like it was like an eye opener. The simple fact that there's so many people losing their lives or getting shot on a daily basis for the communities that they live in, or just fit a certain description. And we call them gang interventionists, community intervention workers, but they like the lifelines in the communities. A lot of gentlemen who may have lived that life, well, men and women who live that lifestyle, but are doing good for the hood now. And so, like, these individuals are on call 24 hours a day. Like, I was on call 24 hours a day, you know, and it's just like a dedication like none other that I experienced in my life. We were like first responders. We would go to different multiple scenes, different homicide scenes, officer-involved shootings. It's just really an eye-opener. And so the work that the interventionists are doing here in Los Angeles gets accolades and praises from the chief of police, accolades and praises from the mayor, different community leaders, because we all know a lot of times people in our communities ain't trying to listen to the police, you know. The police realize they can't arrest their way out of this. You can't arrest everybody to solve the problem. And so it's a beautiful thing that's come together here, where the community's doing the work, but and there's an understanding that LAPD lets them do what they need to do, and there's no lines being crossed. The community let LAPD do what they need to do. And the homicide, since I've been involved since 2011, was going down every year. Back in the day, it was like thousands of people, losing their lives to homicide out here. Thousands. Now I think last year it was under 300. And so I tip my hat to them, you know. And as far as with the reentry work, growing up, again, in the Midwest, during the crack era, people was getting more time getting caught with crack than they was for a murder, almost. And so I would say this: I've been reading the Michelle Alexander, The New Jim Crow, and she breaks it down. She breaks it down on how all those laws was set and against inner city communities. You know, it was just very sad times. And so I experienced that, and I saw a lot of my friends doing time that I grew up with, you know. And it was just unfair, because I went to a black school at one point and I went to a white school. I would see some white kids, you know, they would do the drugs, maybe get caught and don't get much time, but my black friends who would sell the drugs would get all the time. And so I was like, this is I was witnessing it, but not really, it wasn't registering. And so the reentry work now that I'm involved in is so pivotal, because if you have somebody coming out of the prison or jail system that is mentally unbalanced, that may need support, with legal issues, with housing, with employment, what else you going to do? And so now we got in line with the Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity and Office of Reentry, we contract and community-based organizations to pretty much support the efforts what they're doing along with our program to help welcome brothers and sisters coming back into our communities and give them that support they need. It's really important. It's really important. And so I think, I applaud both administrations I work for, Mayor Villaraigosa and Mayor Eric Garcetti, for being advocates of this work, because it's in our communities and our communities are suffering on multiple levels. So I'm really happy to be a part, I guess, of the answer and to work alongside some of these leaders out here in LA. It's crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, that's interesting. That's awesome with the stats. That the homicide rates are going down over the years due to you all's work out in the community. And as leaders, we almost have to be, chameleons. So in your current environment, when you're out, and you are going to various scenes, whatever they may entail, that you have to be relatable. That's one of the things. I mean, you have to be raw and uncut so that there's that respect level that's there. Because if you came in polished and all of that good stuff, you wouldn't be relatable. And so sometimes as leaders, we have to be chameleon and have to be flexible and adaptable to whatever the situation calls for the people that we are serving. So I'm happy that you mentioned that.
Exactly. I look at it as me. I'm just a brother who made it out the hood and want to do good. And I know my lane in this work. You know what I'm saying? I think we all got lanes in this work. And so what makes me relate to the South LA community so much is when I see South LA community members, it reminds me of friends and family at home. That's people I meet remind me of my family or scenarios what I grew up in and survived. And so for me to be educated and try to come back is a God-given blessing that's been placed on me.
Yeah, that's a blessing to be able to serve and be able to help. And when you're passionate because you have been in that environment and you've seen that, it's easier to stay and do the work, especially when it gets difficult, which being in the community, whether it's the LA community or in our own communities, doing the work of the community and of the people can get difficult and can get tiring. You definitely have to have the passion to serve.
Exactly.
So with that, what skills and qualities do you possess that you think have been most important for you to be successful in the work that you do to uplift our communities?
I love to listen. I love to listen. You can't come into a new community with all the solutions when you're not even from that community to understand the struggle. I think with all the different inner cities across America, there's a code of ethics that the do's and the don'ts that we all know. But when I first came into the city and the meetings, even though I was facilitating meetings with the different community groups, organizations, and LAPD and different folks, I wanted to listen. I would sit after the meetings and talk to community members in the parking lot for an hour or two. Sometimes I would just to rap to people because just like man to man or man to woman, besides the titles, let's put the titles to the side. Let's just talk. What's going on? You know what I'm saying? And that's my approach. Treat everybody the same, and I will always listen because and once I got more and more familiar with what was going on, I was saying to myself, I can relate to these struggles. I kind of grew up with similar struggles. And as I started to learn and read more about some of the disparities that boys and men of color face and how one of the most shocking, I guess, statistics was how a lot of children in inner city grow up with asthma because of improper health care. And then when I read that, I said, wow, a lot of my friends did have asthma growing up. And so it was just, it's sad it took that long for me to really understand what was going on. But you have to really understand the post on the ground before you can offer real solutions. And I think I'm a firm believer of having people from that community at the table. Some organizations want to come in with all these solutions and with these plans drawn up. And there's some organizations that also like to have community members at the table. But just me personally, I like to have people from that community who know that community, who know all the struggles, and at the table,
Right.
They have to be a part of the solution.
Absolutely. I mean, that happens so often where, boards and, decision makers make all of these plans and all of these decisions to uplift and empower these various communities without talking to one stakeholder. And then they wonder why those proposed solutions do not work. So I absolutely agree.
Exactly. and you got to employ people from the community too. You got to put money in people's pockets from that community.
Right. Well, they need to have a vested interest in the solutions.
Thank you.
Especially whoever your influencers are needs to be on board.
Exactly.
So, just like you, I work with a lot of young people, and so it's important for our next generation of leaders to not only hear about our successes, but to hear about some of our mistakes. When we read our bios and, they hear all the great things that we're doing, a lot of times it's missing, all of our, some of our mistakes, some of our failures, some of our, I don't know why I did that. I shouldn't have done that. But can you share with the listeners some of your biggest mistakes and some of the learning lessons that you gained from them?
That's a good question. That kind of reminds me about the question when you're doing a job interview and they're like, what's some of your weaknesses? And you're like, I don't want to tell you. But it's like, I think I might not get the job, And so with this, I think, if I think about it, I know at one point in my life, I lost a few family members, and I think I took a step back, meaning like I stopped living. I was living on the outside, but I really wasn't living life, because how I grew up was you don't show your weaknesses. You don't show when you hurt. You got to walk to school. You got to survive. You got to, be tough. You got to be a certain way. And so I learned how not to really show my emotions. And so I had lost some family members, and I was living life after that. And people who didn't know me didn't know what was going on deep down inside. And I took a step back. I just kind of stopped communicating with a lot of friends and family. And years went by, and I constantly was seeking help from pastors, and eventually went to therapists. I remember one time my fans get Ernie a shout out. He called me. He called me one time on the phone. I was in L.A. He was like, "What's up?" I'm like, "Man, I'm just leaving this therapist." He's like, "What happened? What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Nothing. I just, going to a therapist." And I guess the preconceived notion in a lot of black communities that you got to be crazy to go to a therapist, And,
right.
Yeah, and so I tried that for a while, and eventually, after a lot of prayer, after a lot of good support from family and friends and sisters and brothers, and I kind of came out of that and was like, I can't live my life like this. So you'll mess around and rot away. There's a lot of people who dealing with trauma, who not getting professional help, who try to deal with it on their own. A lot of people self-medicate. A lot of our youth are self-medicating heavily. Nowadays, with all this stuff that's out, boy, I can't imagine. And so once I decided to live life again, it kind of it really helped me out. But I was, I was kind of not mad, but I was like, man, I would just let so many years go by, and I think I have greatness in me. Well, I know I have greatness in me, and I just choose to take the back seat. And I'm like, why did I do that? But at the same time, I kept my sanity, and that was one of the main things I would pray through a lot, keep my sanity regardless of what I go through, and just keep a strong mind,
Right. Well, and that's, and that's important for our young people to hear, because they are dealing with so much, there's so much going on. There's so much that's competing for their attention. There's so many, there's just so much, with social media, there's a lot, with their own personal lives, there's a lot, and their tolerance to understand it all is lower. And so that tolerance for pain and being able to deal with, mistakes and trauma and all of that is lower. And so you find it that a lot of our young people, are hurting themselves, because historically in the African American community, it is looked at this therapy, you got to be crazy, or something of that nature. You got to be traumatic, African Americans don't go to therapists, and this and that. And then what happens is that our young people start to hurt themselves, and luckily, they don't go to the next level and kill themselves, but some of them are.
But that's been an increase in our communities. Suicide the number's been increasing in our communities.
Mhm. And again, because they feel like there's no options. I mean, I had a close family member, because they made a mistake. They made a mistake, and they're like, I don't think I can recover. And that one mistake turned into a series of mistakes. And they're like, I don't think I can do this. And they tried to harm themselves. They tried to, take their life. And if it wasn't by the grace of God, they would have taken their life, because, they felt like I made a mistake. I got to live up to some standard that I don't know who set. And, I feel like there's no way out. So, thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that with our listening audience, because that is very important for them to know that, when you experience those dark times, or, something is going on, with family or yourself, instead of kind of like checking out, and kind of disengaging or worse, that there are options out there. You don't have to be crazy to see a therapist. If you are overwhelmed and overloaded with stress in life, you need to go talk to somebody.
Yeah, exactly. It's a group out here called Californians for Safety and Justice, and they kind of supported me last year. And it's a lot of individuals who lost loved ones. And I'm like, wow, it's a group. It's a group out here where you can get support, And so it's just different outlets. It don't all have to be a therapist. It's different groups and ways and means for people to get help.
Right. So I read about your 501c3 nonprofit organization, DMTL, in which you are the president and founder. The organization is doing some outstanding work through its program models for gang prevention, delinquency prevention, and youth development services. Can you share with the listening audience more about what you and the team over there are doing? Tyree?
Yeah, hello?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay. And so let me explain what DMTL is, because a lot of times people have that question, what is DMTL? What does that stand for? What is it? And so in 2002, I lost my mother and two brothers to gun violence. And so D is her first initial, Dolores, Marcel's my older brother, initial T for Tyree, which is me, and L for Larry. And so after that, I was saying to myself, after years, I think 2 years went by, that they can be remembered by that event. That is don't even represent who they were, what they stood for, or what they instilled in me. And so I was in California when I came up with it, and I said I'm going to do a nonprofit in their name, and never did a nonprofit, never worked in the community. I was like, my whole thing before that was just make money. I was like hustle man. Like back in K-State, Kentucky State, in Young Hall in the dorm, I had a barber shop. I had like a pawn shop. I used to I had work study. I was hustling. My whole thing was get money. And so, but I think at this point, once I went through those traumatic changes, I kind of had to ask myself what makes me happy at this point. Because my whole purpose in life up until then was to take care of my mother. Become successful, take care of mom. That was goal number one, point blank. And so, with DMTL, with me kind of getting things together, I was blessed to connect with Miriam Ali, Muhammad Ali's oldest daughter. We call her May. And so she was heavily working in the communities in South LA. Met her working down in the mayor's office, and we was like on the same page on some effective programs that we think the community can really benefit from. And so right now we're at a point where we are fundraising, to try to do this 3-year pilot, working with kids from 6th to 8th grade. And we have a wonderful model that we want to implement and evaluate and share on a national level. And so we're in the midst of fundraising, gathering those funds together and trying to get this thing up and running so we can share it with the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and that's a great way to honor them and leave a legacy. So that's awesome news. I'm all about having a living legacy and then leaving, a legacy behind. So that's a pretty awesome. It's an awesome way to celebrate them.
Thank you.
What role has having a coach or mentor have in your life? Tyree?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. And so I think that mentoring probably has been so important in my life. I think growing up, I'm a firm believer of multi-generational mentoring. I'll break that down in a second. But I think in life, like when I was younger, my mentors chose me, right? I think they saw something in me and wanted to push me to see if I was willing to accept the responsibility, something similar to what I was talking about earlier. And, I wouldn't be here without all of the male mentors in my life, going from Leroy Bell, Larry Peaches, Leroy Bowden, Sales, Mr. Ola, Porky. I got like all these people. And then even at K-State with Mr. Banks and Tommy Haynes, and like everywhere I go, I would like connect with a male figure that could put me on game. Because my theory was I want to be around somebody who could put me on game, teach me a little something as well besides what I got. And so mentorship is so important. Multi-generational mentoring is something that I use because out here on the West Coast, I consider some of my mentors from this organization called Brother to Brother Mentoring Group. Older brothers, a lot of them mentor me, along with some of the community intervention workers. They mentor me. I pass that down to a few cats that I mentor in their 20s who are mentoring either high school students or middle school students. and they teaching them how to mentor. And so we have to divide the knowledge and don't hide the knowledge. But we got to look out for each other. A lot of times you got to realize it's uncomfortable for a young man to say, hey, can you help me? I need help. A lot of times, people be weary in our communities when you come, when you're trying to help people. They're like, what's the catch? You know what I mean? And so it's like, once you get past that level and people see that you're genuinely trying to help them, a lot of times the young men I mentor, they always say, what can I do, man? Well, you need help or something? I'm like, just once you get in the position to do the same thing, help somebody else. That's all I want. That's all I want from you. Pass it back down once you get to that level. And so it's really important. I'm always looking for additional mentors because I'm always trying to elevate my game to another level. I remember one time I saw Magic Johnson and I hollered at him, and it was a crazy story. I'll just share it real quick. I snuck in this event that Magic was giving. I heard it on the radio, Magic Johnson event. I put on the suit. I was snuck in the event through the back VIP. Towards the end of the event, when he was leaving out, we was in the kitchen, and I was walking towards Magic, and maybe 20 of his staff and his wife, Cookie, was right behind him. And we walking towards each other, and I'm like, okay, maybe 5 feet apart. I said, what's up, Magic? I said, I just realized 2 weeks ago you one of my idols. And he stopped. But I said, yeah, we do the same work. I said, it's on different levels, and we kind of took it from there. And, I wanted to build with Magic because when he's doing things happen in my life, we didn't make that connection. I say that to say this. We all need mentors, and I'm constantly mentoring people, and I'm constantly looking for mentors. So it plays an important role in our life.
Yes, it does. So what would be one pearl of wisdom you would want to leave the listener audience with?
A closed mouth don't get fed. Once you convince yourself that you're great, then you can convince others that you're great. Because if you don't believe in yourself, people can see it. People can feel it. People can hear it in your voice. Convince yourself. Get over the hump of you doubting yourself. Speak up when you have to. I'm a laid-back cat. I don't like to speak all the time. But when it's time to speak, I'll talk to Magic in the back of the kitchen, coming with 20 people coming towards me. So you got to know. You got to know how to speak when it's time to speak, And always ask for advice. If you're working with your job, your company, let them know that you're looking to be in leadership positions. Let them know that you're hungry. Let them know that you're a team player and you're willing to help accomplish the goals and the mission, but you still looking to grow. Because they can't read minds. Closed mouth won't feed you. Stay hungry. This work that I do is bigger than my life. This work is about my family. This work is about our communities. And so I'm just humbled to be on your show. I'm humbled to share my experiences and take care of the mental, physical, and spiritual self-care. Make sure you take care of yourself so you can help others. I know that was a lot.
Awesome. That is all good advice. So, Tyree, how can our listeners stay connected with you and support you in your efforts?
All right, cool. So you can go to our website, the DMTL website, the www.dmtlfamily.org. I'm in the process of writing a book. Stay on the lookout on a book. And the way you can find out about that is follow me on Instagram at T as in Tom, Nason Buchanan, TNASONBUCHANAN. Follow me, see what some of my moves I'm doing next, some of the projects I got going on, some great collaborations I'm working on, and just hit me up. I'm a professional dot connector. I don't think I made that up, but I like connecting people with other people. They call me Black Batman. That's what I do.
That is awesome. Well, I'm interested in hearing more about your future work and your collaborations and your book.
Yes.
And then I'm sure we could talk for, more time than we have tonight. But unfortunately, our time has come to a close. So I will definitely be on the lookout for all of the great things that you are doing. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to give me the opportunity to interview you tonight. It was definitely an honor and a pleasure to have you as my guest. So many blessings and continued success to you, Mr. Buchanan, on your journey.
Thank you, and excuse me. Like I said, I sound congested. It's cold out here. It's 60 degrees. So I'm sorry about that. Just excuse me for that sound.
Oh, you were just perfect. So thank you, you were. So thank you, listener audience, for tuning in to tonight's show with our special guest, Nason Buchanan, where he shared that we really need to take care of ourselves so that we are able to give back and give to others. Always be a leader. Treat everyone the same. Listening is important. You can't come to a new city, to a new organization, to a new leadership table with solutions if you don't understand the dynamics that are already in play. Pay it forward. We all need a mentor. Mentors are very important. A closed mouth doesn't get fed. Convince yourself that you are great. And if you believe that you are great, others will as well. And know how to speak when it is time to speak. If you are interested in being a guest on this show, starting your own radio show or low-cost advertising of your business or events, please email dibroadcasting@trendyelitellc.com. And please tune in next week to hear from another amazing leader. Until then, have a good evening.
Thank you, friends, for tuning in to another episode of Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson, where Taiwana speaks with leaders who share nuggets of wisdom that you can use in your personal and professional life. Follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Coach T. Wilson. Connect on LinkedIn or visit www.coachtwilson.com. And remember, in life, learn as much as you can, appreciate often, and lead fearlessly.